Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be on the next set of chapters of Doom of the Darksword. This time it's chapters 7 through 12. Now, this set of chapters, I really feel like we're at a little bit of a transitional moment. Like, we're out in the Outlands, we're traveling away from where we were, and yet we're not quite where we're going. We're not quite sure where this book is going to take us, and I feel like these chapters is kind of questioning where exactly we're going to go, and where did the characters want to go, and how this is all going to move forward. So I can really see that in this set of chapters is just Joram thinks he knows where they're going, and they're traveling, and yet they haven't gotten there to Marilyn yet. They haven't really established what the plan of action is. It's kind of all up in the air, and this set of chapters really shows that they're just trying to move in a direction. They don't really have a specific plan. And even Joram isn't sure what he really wants to do the second he gets to Marilyn. So this set of chapters is kind of calling into question exactly what's going to happen next. So let's go ahead and start with our recap as always. We start off right when they're exiting into the Outland. They are escaping the camp, leaving it in a little bit of a turmoil, and they are just traveling out into the Outland, being led by Simpkin, who knows the way to Marilyn. As they are progressing through, they're really traveling through this dense, swampy, wooded area. I was never quite clear exactly what they called it, but they're struggling through this foliage. It's dark, it's miserable, the sun isn't shining through the plants. So they're kind of just pushing through, trying their best just to be traveling and going in the direction they're supposed to be going. Until Saryan realizes that they are not headed toward Marilyn, they're headed toward Shirakan. So they're going the wrong way. And though this does get called into the question, Simpkin does, give excuses as to why they're taking a very indirect route. And as they're traveling through, they suddenly stumble upon this glade that is wonderful. Compared to, all the plants they're going through, compared to the dense foliage, the sun is shining into this glade, everything is just perfect, and it's like an oasis in this boggy area. So despite the fact that Simpkin is like, this wasn't here last time I was here, I don't think we should stay here, everybody else vetoes him, and they just relax, they get, the water, they're laying down, they're really just soaking in the relief of having someplace nice to stay for once. And it's great until they realize that a Darksword is watching them. They realize that they are at least in the proximity of the Darksword, and they try to attack them in order to secure a way out. Though that doesn't work very well, they are easily captured by the Darksword. And an unknown man that is in charge of these people suddenly stakes ownership and tries to figure out who they are, and they realize that it is Prince Gerald of Shirakan. And the prince finally releases them once he realizes that Simpkin is in the group and that Simpkin is leading this group through this area and that they are not really an actual threat. But Gerald is very interested in Joram's plight, Joram's history, just Joram in general, and he learns a lot about what Joram's past is like and what their plans are. And in being so interested in Joram, he decides that he's going to help Joram learn how to actually use the Darksword as a sword and to learn how to fence properly, to help him have some more skills since he is technically not alive and has no magic, so he will have a little bit more of a fighting chance. with using the Darksword as more than just an element that can soak up the magic. So he starts to teach him, and it is revealed that he is hoping that Joram will come to Shirakan to fight against Marilyn instead of going there and just taking his rightful place in the nobility ranks. So again, this is kind of more like a transitioning, figuring out period in the book, which I feel like means we don't have quite as much exciting, crazy stuff happening. We're just traveling and meeting this new character, and we're kind of a little bit doing some recapping. Like, we hear Joram's story again, which is basically the story that we just read in book 1, without it being like, hey, here's a recap. So as we're transitioning this new character in, we are getting a little bit more in depth on characters' internal struggles, backgrounds, and just a little bit of recapping for us as the audience to kind of reestablish us back in this moment, in this space, and to see where we're going to move forward. One thing that is pretty nice about these chapters, since they are a little bit more low-key, is there's a bit of world building to be had in these chapters. They're traveling through this horrible, jungly place, and it's miserable. And at one point, we have like this huge creature that we think is out there. We don't really see it. Simkin sees it, but we personally, as the reader, don't have any of the other characters that actually see it and can describe it, so we don't really know what it is. But they are traveling along this path that Simkin says was created by this creature. So that is interesting, and we don't really know what creature this is or what role it has to play. We don't even know if they're still in the area or the vicinity of this creature, so that might show up again. But we do know that there's some kind of large animal out there that led the path, and Simkin was apparently smelling that animal and following it along. So pretty interesting. We've got the actual place itself, this horrible place that's swampy and boggy and such to travel through and traverse, and how weary they are. It's a very tough land that they are going through, and so far we've seen a little bit of different locales, but this is the most drastically different than the other locales that we've seen so far. And then as they continue forward, they also meet with the, I think it's Kij vines that are blood-sucking plants. So not only are they tired, are they weary, they're trying to get through this foliage, they're trying to push through, and are trying not to lose each other, and now they have to worry about plants sucking the blood from them and not letting them go. So right now we're really building this part of the world to be a very not wonderful place, and the fact that Prince Gerald is even in it too means that there is a definite need to go through this area, but you'd think if it was used very often it would be more inhabitable, more transversable. So it's obviously not a well-used area of this world. It's very wild and very much kind of setting the scene for them being a little bit lost, a little bit of uncertain of where they're going, and they're just trying to get through this tangle. Just like emotionally, they're just trying to get through their tangled emotions. Joram is pretty set, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. Mosiah is just following Joram. Saryan is feeling a tangled mass of what he should be doing and what's right and what's wrong and who he even is. He's just very much focused on keeping his secret and following Joram and trying to protect him from the fate that he believes Bishop Vanya has for him. So the only one that really doesn't have the tangle of emotions is Simkin, but we don't really know much about Simkin to say that for certain. Maybe he's going through something that we don't know. But it's very, very important that all of them are sticking together and they're trying to get through this landscape that's kind of reflective of where they're at right now. And then we encounter the world building of the fact that magic can create a place out of nowhere, like it's just all magic, but you can interact with it. You can drink the water from the spring, you can feel the sunshine on your skin, and it's very much basically a real place at that point. It becomes tangible. Now, when they leave, we're going to see if that magic just goes away and that glade is gone, or if it's something that they've actually like created with the magic. But I think it's pretty interesting because we haven't really seen magic used in this way at this point. We haven't seen that kind of magic. Like, they usually are like shaping things and they're just using it to preserve what's already there, and instead of like, to create a chair, they're not hacking up the wood and putting the pieces together. They're just shaping the wood with magic into a chair. So here, have they actually shaped the vines and everything into this oasis? Or is it kind of illusionary, but such a good illusion that you can actually like interact with the illusion and like have good drinking water from it? So I think it's super, super interesting. It makes me wonder what else magic can do and what we haven't seen from it, and if we will learn even more about what the possibilities of magic is in this world, and just add a little bit more sophistication, a little bit more uniqueness to the story and to the world and the setting that we are currently investigating. And last but not least, something I think is very interesting is that not all the cultures seem to have the same concept of dead and not using magic and how life is supposed to be oriented. Because Gerald, at least, we don't know if all of Shirakan is this way, but at least Gerald is very strict about learning how to do things without magic and doing things the primitive ninth mystery way with technology, or with taking dead things that are dead and giving it a what's the term that I'm looking for? Like creating a fire, but it's like you're not really like using it with magic. You're actually like chopping up wood and then creating sparks to light it. Or like they said that you're not supposed to do technology in the fact that you're supposed to not cut up wood and then piece it together to create furniture. It's supposed to just be molded with the magic and kept alive. So Gerald, at least, is not upset or is not against using technology in order to prepare himself for when magic is not available for him, when that would not be the case, that he is not given life and such like that. So I think it's super interesting, especially because they also have the bishop with them that is supposed to be all about life and the opposite against death. And so this might be a reflection of Shirakan's values, that, they really revere their magic and use it, but then they also are not totally against those that are considered quote, quote, dead, or not being able to use the magic and doing things more with the ninth mystery and technology. So we're going to see how that plays out, but I think that that's super, super interesting to have that kind of just slipped in there, just like as a nice little something to think about as we're reading, and something that we can investigate and to see if this world is not quite so black and white as it is made out to be. What do you think? How do you feel like the world building went in this set of sections? Do you feel like you've learned a lot more about how this world works? Anything new or exciting? I feel like all of these points really are just giving us more permanence to this world. It's giving a little bit more sophistication and a little bit more relatability to this world, because we're seeing more of its darker sides, and it's a little bit more nuanced sides to it. So really, really enjoyed seeing how this world is evolving in this set of chapters. Next, let's talk about Gerald. So Gerald is the first brand new character that we've had in this book for a while. Like, for the most part, the first set or the first book has like the main characters that make up that book, and then that's it. We don't have like a lot of new or unexpected characters coming in or out. So Gerald is a brand new character, someone who is making quite an important impact on the story right away. So he has been put into play at this point, and I think it'd be great to get to talk to him, talk about him, and talk about what his impact is already, and who he is as a person, and what we already know about him just from this few couple of chapters with him. I think it's super interesting that he is super interested in Joram and the sword. Of course, this is a unique person, a unique sword, so it makes sense that he would be interested in them. But he is immediately drawn to Joram and what he represents and who he is. But he doesn't come off as greedy or lying or self-centered, or like he's trying to have some underlying meaning or underlying thing going on with this. Instead, he is very honestly just interested in Joram, just honestly seeming to want to help him out. Of course, he does want him to come to Shiraken and be their ally, that is for sure. But it doesn't seem like he is doing his help because he is expecting that in return. He is putting that out in the open because that is something that he is interested in and something that he wants. But he seems like overall, when it comes to Joram, he is just truly interested in Joram's story, in what Joram is doing and who he is, and wants to facilitate whatever change that Joram might bring to this world and to the people of Marilyn. He is super, super smart. Like, Gerald is super smart, super is that the word I'm looking for? Perceptive. Oh my gosh, there we go. Perceptive about everything. Like, he picks up little details here and there, just having a conversation with Saurian. He can just easily be like, okay, this is obviously about Sauron, this one. Like, okay, I get who this person is and how I can push them, how I can, ask questions for them, whether he should trust their answers or not. He is very, very perceptive, very, very smart. He knows how to play his hand and when to leave it closer to the chest. And he's just a very, very strong package as a character. Like, he's got all this stuff that right off the bat you already have found out about how smart he is, about how he is trying to look at the situation with these people. He seems to be overall a very honest, upright person who has some very deep feelings about who he is and this world, and how he's trying to change it. He's very open, very honestly frank person. He's puts things out there and he's like, whatever you're going to say in return, or whatever the fallout is for saying this, that's going to be the outcome. He talks openly, honestly. He doesn't, put the kid gloves on for Joram. He's like, hey, if you want to be a real noble person, you have to treat people well. It's not about the fact that you can wear fancy clothes and look down on people. And he had no real concern about what that was going to mean to say that. He just was like, you know what, this is how the way the world is, and that's what I'm going to tell you. So I really like this about him. He seems like, again, just honest, open, easy person overall. Like, he obviously is smart enough to have his own agenda and to have his own goals, but he is not forcing anything on anybody. He is just laying it out there, taking his time, figuring out what is possible and what is not. Again, he really wants Joram to come to Shiraken to fight with them and to make a change in this world. So he does, again, have an agenda, does have hopes and goals, but again, he's also not pressuring them. He is not manipulating anybody in order to get his way. He's just stating things as it were and leaving it to fall out as it will, and just trusting it's going to work out the way it needs to. And something that was also interesting is that he has some pretty unique perspectives on people. We have the unique perspective that Joram is a protector, which at this point that has never ever been indicated. Joram is the least protective person in terms of like caring about people or the general good. Sure, he's protected Mosiah. Sure, he's been kind of interested in Saryan and like, you know, trying to not burn that bridge. But for the most part, he is not a nice, cuddly, protective person. So I think it's interesting to have a character first meet him and that be his first instinct, even though Joram is clearly very sarcastic to him, very much looks down on him for feeling like he is looking down at Joram, back at Joram. So I just think that that's super interesting that Gerald picks him out as a protector and wants him as a protector to choose Shirakan, to choose the side of Shirakan and to make a change in this world that Joram, you know, really has shown no interest in caring about. I also really respect that Gerald is not the kind of noble that sees himself as superior in any way. We all know that there are those kind of nobility that are just like smug and uptight, and I'm like, I am all that, and you should treat me like I am all that. However, Gerald is not like that. He puts Joram straight. And the fact that nobility is not about rank, it is not about what you look like, it is not about how many servants you have, it is not that you can look down on other people and rub their nose in it. It's all about being good to people, looking after people, and, you know, ruling with compassion and trying to do what's best for the world and for everybody in it. So overall, Gerald just seems like a really solid, good person and who really is trying to make positive changes in this world. And now that he's coming in here, I really see that, at least at this point, he's making the most effect on Joram. He fully out called Joram on his behavior, on his thought processes, on what he wants, and he is taking Joram aback because Joram has never been confronted like this before. He has never had to face his actions. He's never had to face his reactions. He's never had to face, you know, whether he has to choose himself or other people. He's never been challenged. And Gerald has now challenged his beliefs, his reactions, what he's doing, who he is, what kind of person he should be. So Gerald is coming in here mixing things up and offering another solution or another path for Joram to take. And we will see in the future, probably pretty soon in this next book, whether he takes him up on that path or whether he continues down the same path he has been journeying so far. I really like Gerald. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on him, especially in this set of chapters. Do you like his introduction? How do you feel about him first off? Do you think I got any of this wrong or anything more you'd like to add? I just really love to know your thoughts and your feelings, so please let me know down below. Now let's go on the flip side and talk about Joram, because Joram is the other main character that is really significant in these chapters and like how he is growing, changing, who he is at this point. Joram is, though he is not necessarily the only main character, he is the, you know, one of the main characters, and he is a very big focus for this entire story. He is kind of the central key to this story, why it's even happening in the first place. So for him having to endure this, to have his whole rationale being questioned and who he is to be brought up into his face, he is really being taught by Gerald. So this is something that has not been happening from anybody else. He just had his mom who taught him to be who he is now, and he has not had Saryan or Mosiah or Simkin or anybody at the, Ninth Mystery camp that's really brought it into question and really stuck to their guns about correcting Joram. Now, Gerald has no problem doing that. He has not even known Joram that long to really care whether he steps on his toes or not, or to bruise his ego. He is just saying, I see who you are right now, and this is who you should be or who you could be, and how great that would be. And you're not living up to your potential. And he just stuck it to him. And no one's ever really, truly done that. No one's ever truly tried to make him question who he is and why he's doing what he's doing. So he's really having a learning moment here. We're going to see if he adapts whatever learning moment he has or whether he throws it out, because of course with all learning moments you have to decide whether you're going to internalize them or to sweep them under the rug. So we're going to see if Joram has some character building coming up, if he's going to progress and to evolve, or if he's going to stay the same. He's being taught what a good person is, and I know that Joram has not had many experiences with actual good people. It's been very limited. Some, but very limited. So he's kind of being corrected on, not only what being a good person is, what being a noble person should be, and what should mean, and like all this worldview that he has is just spiraling and spiraling. So again, we're just going to see what kind of character building he's going to have coming up at this point. And it's a really good moment that we ended on, a really strong moment where we're kind of like, okay, here is where things are going to either change course or we're going to see how destructive the course Joram is on right now actually is. I have faith that Joram will possibly be able to internalize at least some of it, and maybe he will grow from here. But it was a good moment from Gerald, in my opinion, to really stick him in his place and to do this. I feel like Joram needed this as a character, and then we are going to see how he progresses from here. This will define a little bit of who Joram decides to be. The apathetic person who only cares about himself and wants to be that kind of sneering, too upper class to associate with anyone below him kind of person, or if he is going to try and take on that protector role and to reevaluate who he is as a person. In fact, it's such an important moment in the fact that he cries afterward. He actually cries and absorbs Gerald's words, and I don't want to say he's yet internalized it, but he did actually listen, and he is understanding what it means, and he is crying because he doesn't want to have to face the reality that he should either change or ignore this important lesson that he's being taught and that is being addressed for him. He really hears what Gerald is saying, and that is something that I think is really important as for Joram, as a character. It's that even though he has all these negative aspects and how strong he is, or I guess I would say more hard-headed than strong, but how strong he is in his convictions of how he feels, how much he tries to stay apathetic, no matter how much he doesn't really care about anybody except for those that have shown any caring to him. He really has absorbed what Gerald is saying and really is feeling like, okay, I have to make a choice here. What kind of person am I going to be? It's not like an immediate, like, I don't want to be that kind of person, or I'm not having... Pardon me, guys. And doesn't feel like, oh, I just don't have to take what he has to say. Like, who is he to tell me who I have to be and what I have to do? He really does have the want inside of him to be more than he is. I feel like this is showing that he truly is just a kid. He truly is just a young person who is still figuring out who he's supposed to be. He's had a hard life up until now, and he has just tried to be a survivor, and now he's having to come to terms with the fact that he can't just keep being only a survivor at this point, and has to make choices that are going to be important and defining. So he definitely shows that he has the ability to progress and to grow, which is super important as a main character and as a character who has so much riding on him. And to the future is riding on him. Though on the other side of all this positivity, we also see a lot of negativity in Joram, and the fact that he is so easy. It's so easy now for him to think about killing people. Like, instantly, like, oh, if this guy says anything I don't like, or if he gets out of hand, I'll just kill him. I won't, take crap from him or nothing. Like, immediately is like, I don't want to deal with you, then we're out. And he is feeling like that is an acceptable answer, like an acceptable route to take is just to kill people. He's done it twice now, the first time definitely out of just reaction. It wasn't like a planned thing or like where he really expected to kill somebody. He just reacted. The second time was a conscious decision, but it was based off of somebody who could easily come back and kill him. So in some ways you could justify that as kind of self-defense or preservation, even if it was done incorrectly. But when it comes to him now, he really sees that as just like the option to go with, the way to move forward against anybody, to have power over them, to feel like you can, or that he can get forward in this world, is like if anything gets in his way, he'll just eliminate it. And now he pretty much doesn't even feel like he has to redefine that in terms of like interacting with another human. He doesn't have magic, and so what he'll do is he'll just take you out of the equation. And that is very scary to see, that Joram is so easily thinking about killing people and finds it to be something that he doesn't even lose sleep over at this point. So we see some positivity, we see some darkness and some negativity in him. Which will win out at the end of this little interaction and this moment with Gerald? We're going to see who he decides to come out with on the other side. Though, because we have these two dual-natured portions of him, we have the part that recognizes who he is, recognizes that he needs to make changes to be a good person, and the other side of him that really just... it's like, I just want to kill people if they get in my way, and I just want what is owed to me. And because he has these two sides, he's very conflicted. He doesn't want to care about anyone, and yet he does. He does care about some people, at least. Even if it's not the majority of people, he cares about Messiah, he cares about Sarya, and he does care about Simkin. So he does have the conflictedness of, like, some of that good in him and some of that bad in him currently at the same time. And Gerald has seen this goodness in him and sees the potential of him, but it was really going to be which side's going to win out, which part of this conflict is going to eventually rise up and win. And I think that's something I really enjoy about Joram as a main character, is that it's not so easily black and white. He isn't just, good versus bad, right versus wrong. Joram is really having this conflicted feelings because he's not used to things being so gray. He's not used to feeling like, I don't really know what's right, or that I have two sides of the same feeling together. So I think Joram is going through a transitional phase here. Will he grow and change and evolve? Or will he backtrack and maybe degrade down into a darker version of himself? It's really unknown at this point, but I do think we are, the authors at least, are setting us up to have a split, whether it's a good split or a bad split, into a new direction for Joram, and that will then shape the story as we are progressing forward with it. So this moment is a transitional building moment that then we're going to see where we're going to spring off from and what direction we're going to go in next. Now, last but not least, let's do the nitty gritty. So, 3 nitty-gritties today. The first one is that Simkin specifically leads the group towards Shirakan and Prince Gerald. So, again, we are still in that phase of like not really understanding Simkin at all. Like, who is he really? We understand that there's more to him than he is trying to let us know. He makes it seem like he's just this bumbling idiot and a very ecstatic person, very all over the place and kind of a liar, I guess. I don't know. He's quirky, okay? We'll just call him quirky. But we know that there's more to him than just that quirkiness. We know that there's something there. He's given us hints. He's given us plenty of options to see that, and the characters to see that. But we still don't know exactly who he is, why he is doing things, what his motivation is, nothing. So we are very suspicious of him to be leading Joram to Shirakan instead of Marilyn, because we know that has a meaning. We know that it's supposed to be that I think he really wanted him to run into Prince Gerald, and maybe this is what's going to happen to split ourselves off from the journey we're on and to change somebody so drastically that the whole thing veers off course and we do something else. And maybe that's what Simkin wants. But obviously he has some reason to have led them in this direction, and he lied about what kind of ways would be better because he was saying that it was safer to go this out of the way path when Gerald is thinking there's many safer paths than the path they were taking. So we're going to see where we're actually going. We're going to see what Simkin wants to have happen. And maybe eventually we'll even find out who Simkin is, really, though maybe we won't. Maybe it'll just be forever a mystery for us. But we're going to find out at least where he has led them and where they're going to go from here. Next, Saryan is so feverish for keeping Joram's true identity such a secret. Like, it's all he's holding on to, and I think it's interesting that we have these new people coming in and making these different observations, because though, yes, it was important for Saryan to keep Joram's identity a secret, especially from Joram, but it's interesting that that's like literally the only thing he's keeping on to him. Like, I would think he would have been a little bit more cautious about telling these random strangers the whole entire story of Joram and everything they've been doing. But instead, he just freely tells them everything, and yet this is the only thing that he is holding on to, the only bit of information that is keeping him going, and as well as his love for Joram. So it's pretty interesting that Saryan has been so broken down to where he is just literally functioning off of one thing, and that is the secret of who Joram truly is. And it's sad because Saryan is such a good guy, and yet he feels so lost and so unsure of everything at this point. And I also thought it was interesting, as far as the writers go, to have incorporated Saryan's little thought process about Joram and his background and talking to Gerald, and having that be the recap kind of book one, to kind of highlight the points that were necessary for the reader to know and to remember to continue through this next book. So I thought that was kind of a nice choice by the author to incorporate a recap that's not like at the beginning, like, here's a recap of what happened, or even to be like two characters are talking about something and it's like clear they both know what's happening, but they're just talking to each other and being like, oh yeah, remember this, and yeah, remember this. So it's really a nice, mature, subtle way to have a little bit of a recap for people who don't, read the book one right after another and needed a little bit of help remembering exactly what they're at and why things are where they're at right now. So that is it. That is all I have today for the next set of chapters for Doom of the Darksword. Hopefully you have enjoyed this discussion with me and you are continuing to enjoy reading this book with me. If you have any comments, any questions, any concerns, anything at all that you'd like to say about any of the topics that I talked about these chapters, or about this series in general, please let me know down below. I would love to have a conversation with you and to hear your thoughts and your feelings. Also, if down below is not the best place, you are more than welcome to contact me through social media. I have Facebook, which is /fantasyfiction1. There is Instagram, which is @fantasyfiction1. And there is Twitter, which is @fantasyfiction1. So if you go basically anywhere and you find fantasyfiction1, there will be me. And you can direct message me on any of them. You can also follow me for updates or new information about the channel, about whatever's happening on the blog, and other things like that. So I'd be happy to see you guys over on those platforms as well. If you'd like more content from me, go ahead and head over to the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. Be happy to have you over there. There's a lot of posts that are over there, like book reviews, book recommendations, fantasy terminology. I've got different discussions about what I think about different things, different writing tips for those of you who like to write and would like to have more tips and tricks for writing fantasy. All of the above, go ahead and find it over there and let me know if you want to see any particular content on the blog as well. I'd be happy to hear your suggestions. Last but not least, if you would like to contact or interact with your fellow fantasy fanatics, please join us on the Discord. That link is down below for you if you'd like to join. But we have several people already over there chatting, having a good time, talking about fantasy and non-fantasy related things. Plus, you can direct message me there, or you can go ahead and get updates from me there as well. So it is a great place for everything all together in one location for hopefully you to be able to interact with other people as well as to keep updated on the channel. If you are enjoying this channel, please consider subscribing. It would help me out a lot, or giving me a thumbs up. I don't usually ask you guys for this. I always feel like it's not fair to expect anything of you, since all I am doing is wanting to put out my thoughts and my love of fantasy out there to share with you guys. But if you guys do happen to enjoy this channel, it would definitely help me continue making more of these videos and sharing my love with you guys. So yeah, just if you're interested in that, go ahead and do that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.